Jinshi, you dumb. I called it. I totally called that. Jinshi was going to ask her while they were out there, and sure enough, what do you do to lower the value of a courtesan? And sure enough, when it cut over to Mama's face, my stomach dropped. I'm like, what an unpleasant question as he says it. My gosh, Jinshi, I like it, bro. I'm starting to like Jinshi a lot lately, to be perfectly honest. And I think a lot of it is to do with him just trying to help Mao Mao in some way, getting her a better place, all that kind of stuff, helping with the whole debt that she technically has in a certain way. And it seemed like even with this episode, it sort of indicates this idea of like, don't you like where you're at? I mean, it seems like it's safer there. It seems like it's a better place for you. Do you just want to get away from me that much? It is almost like that idea of like that disturbing nature of I bought you to bring you over here. I spent so much money to get you. Aren't you happy where you're at? Let me keep throwing money at you. But it is also a thing of like, it seems like genuinely inside there, he's trying to help her. And then to do something stupid like this. Again, we don't really have 100% indication that Jinshi knows what Lakan is talking about. It's perfectly logical to think that he's not completely putting together like we as the viewer are. I think that big indicator was just how similar this person that Lakan was talking about was to Mao Mao. And even him in his mind, it looked like he was connecting it. Like, yeah, that kind of sounds like Mao Mao. And obviously it seems like Lakan's really badly wanting to see Mao Mao. And so I would think that he's kind of getting it. But to say something stupid like that. But I don't know that what Mao Mao is picking up on, or at least what she's replying with, is technically the same thing here. Because again, the answer that Mao Mao gives, I'm jumping way ahead, by the way, but let's just get into this. The answer that Mao Mao gives is, yeah, you have in the house that she works at, that one specifically, they have them come in, they're training all these skills, and then when they get old enough and they show their kind of beauty and how they're going to look, they're separated into two categories. The haves and haves not. The ones that aren't really beautiful, but then the ones that are really beautiful. And they take the ones that aren't beautiful and they just basically go off, start selling their body. You don't have the looks or anything like that. You're not going to be that beautiful. Nobody's going to pay that much for you. You're not going to be that prized. So just start using your body. You have that thing. You don't have it up here, so you have it down here. Go ahead and use it, which is super sad, but that's how that is. That's a courtesan, unfortunately. Then they have the haves, which are the beautiful ones. Those are the ones they essentially doll up, and they make them pure, and they give them knowledge. They let them be entertainers. Their focus is just to entertain the people that come in, but they don't give their body. That's their value. And so they want to keep them pure. And yes, it becomes like the allure to them, and they're appearing less and less. That way their value goes higher and higher. It's the mystique of it. It's the beauty of it. And it's the, yes, what she kind of points it out, the purity of it. They've never been touched, ever. And that's what's given them value to sell. And so what they're basically saying here is, yeah, the best way to get rid of that value, the best way to lower that value is for them to be deflowered. And even worse, and that lowers half their value, and then worse, get pregnant. They lose all of their value. Now, here's the oddity, because what Jinshi's asking is, how do you lower the value of a courtesan? And that seemed like it's the broader picture. It's everything. And so, yes, it applies to more than just the most beautiful. And I almost assumed that Jinshi was going to follow up the question with like, okay, well, all courtesans, not just the ones that are like high value, but it technically fits the bill that the one that she's talking about over here, the one that is kept pure and everything, is going to be the one that Lakan is talking about. Because again, he said that she was essentially one that was just kind of entertaining them, and he wanted her. If he could have gotten with her, it wouldn't have been an issue. But no, this is kind of indicating the one that Lakan's talking about is a pure courtesan, one that is not going to be bedding people. So again, it kind of fits it all in the same bill. But again, I don't know that devaluing is what Lakan's talking about. Because remember what Lakan said was that he wanted to force himself upon her. So that kind of indicates the idea that he never did actually get with her, or that she was not available to be bedded. And so I don't know that's going to be the case of what happened to, again, what we kind of assume here is Mao Mao's mother. That Mao Mao's mother was impregnated in some way. It could definitely fit in that if he had her, I guess, deflowered by somebody else and got pregnant that way. But again, I still think that what Mao Mao lays out as being the way to devalue a courtesan, her explanation right here is not going to apply to what Lacan's talking about. Again, I think it's going to be some sort of poison or some sort of disease that he inflicted her with, and that's what kind of made her devalued. So we'll have to wait and see. But again, Jinshi, stupid, stupid. Outside of that, yes, the episode itself was fantastic. Mao Mao was gorgeous. It was so gorgeous. It was so funny because when they opened up the episode and the idea that Jinshi is going to be going out to this, he wants to look like a commoner. He's got this person he's going to meet up with. And so they want Mao Mao to essentially make him up. And she's like, well, if you make him any more beautiful, wars were started by beautiful people, beautiful women. And so if anybody beautifies Jinshi, it's going to start a war. She's like, are you trying to topple a nation? He's like, what are you talking about? Where is your mind going? But yes, goes into her basically making him uglier. And so she goes all out with this. Like, okay, I'm gonna go crazy with this. Starts working on him. At some point, decides to use Mei Mei's lipstick on him. And we're going to forget that happened. What's happening? What's going on? It was a funny little scene. I loved it. And then, yes, kind of just trying to put his stinky stuff in and dirty his hair and everything. I like how when she first comes in, they're actually still cleaning his hair. And it's like, what are you doing? You're waiting to look like a commoner. Commoner's not going to look like that. You're not going to smell like that. But yeah, they work him up, make him all chunky looking, fill in his mouth, make his throat, his voice change by spicy stuff. All that stuff was great. Just like that little cat look that she had when she got the lipstick. And yes, technically the granny jump in the whole situation. She's trying to help Gulshun help Jinshi find a new toy. They kind of show that little scene later on showing Jinshi's toys and how she says that Gulshun has worked really hard in order for his master to find a new toy. And it was interesting that he technically said something to the effect of, the master can't fixate on one thing. He doesn't have the luxury of doing that. Which is kind of interesting. Again, I think it's because of the fact that he has so many responsibilities. Jinshi has so many responsibilities that he couldn't ever really settle down and retire or whatever. Again, as we're kind of indicating this idea that he's got probably these bigger responsibilities for the Empire to actually be involved with, that he couldn't technically just settle down and be with Mao Mao or whatever. So it's an unfortunate thing, but it kind of lays in line with my theories on who he actually is. But yeah, the date was great. Mama looked gorgeous. Mama looked so gorgeous. Got a cute little dress from the granny and got to walk around the streets and everything. Again, kind of playing off that whole thing of she's like, he's terrible at this. He keeps stepping in front of me. He's not supposed to stand in front. An attendant is not supposed to stand in front of a rich daughter of a family. But no, the surprise in this whole segment was getting more into Loman, which I wasn't really expecting. At some point, she sees some food at this marketplace with wanting to buy it so that she can feed him. Kind of notes the fact that despite the fact that he's extremely talented, he's bad with his money. He's bad with the way that he works his finances. And so despite the fact that Loman is an extremely talented person, he's resulting to a small little shack. I don't know. I think that kind of plays into that little mystery that we had with Mao Mao inviting Loman in when that whole poisoning happened with the tobacco or whatever. And this idea that despite the fact that he came in there and solved the issue, he didn't take the money. Whereas Mama had to step in there and say, no, we're taking it. It kind of plays into what she's saying there. He's bad at his finances. It's more probably an idea that he doesn't accept money when he really should. He's talented. He's doing his job properly, but he's not taking money. And I think it's because he is stipulating, at the time I was knowing at that point, he wasn't taking the money. And even Mama points it out. He didn't take the money because it was hush money. And I think that he does that a lot, and that's probably why he doesn't have much money. A lot of the cases that he's probably involved with are cases where people are throwing hush money around, and he doesn't accept it because he doesn't want to get involved with that stuff. So it's kind of a mixed reaction there for me in what she's kind of perceiving her adopted father as. But yeah, it was interesting that Jinshi has finally seemingly caught on to who Loman is. And the idea that, yes, he says, it seems like you're trying to get away from me. And do you not like where you're at? Do you not like your life in the palace? And she's like, yeah, it's fine. I mean, I got a nice room and everything, and I can leave whenever I want. But I worry about my father. And yes, he makes a little joke about, yeah, I didn't think you cared about anything but your poison and medicine. But no, she does care for her adopted father. And it gets into Mao Mao explaining to Jinshi who he is. He's very talented. He's a very talented person. He actually knows not only Eastern medicine, but Western medicine as well. And Jinshi picks up on this. I think this is our first moment where Jinshi's going to start to figure out possibly who Loman is. And the idea that, yes, not everybody can just run off to a Western place and study. You would have to get the approval of the emperor. So it kind of indicates right there that Loman is special. And then additionally, yes, Mao Mao makes a joke about his luck being terrible. And yes, that he's lost his manhood. Jinshi picks up on that. Wait, he's a eunuch too? All these things are picking up in his mind. The odd thing that she points out was why he's a eunuch. She said apparently because of his studying abroad, he was made a eunuch by the previous Empress Dowager, the former emperor's mother. That part doesn't make any sense to me. It says because of his studying abroad, almost as if this is a punishment for him doing that. He went over there, studied, and came back and was made a eunuch. It could be an aspect that, yes, that is something they have to agree to doing in order to go over there, or the place that he was going to go study at, he had to become a eunuch, or he did it without permission because he wanted to learn more knowledge, and then when he came back, they punished him for it. But we know at least that he does eventually work inside the inner palace, or the rear palace. So I think that she's misunderstanding exactly why he became a eunuch. I think that's part of it, but that's not the whole story. What I think happened here was that, yes, he went over to the West. He studied medicine there. And then when he came back, I think it was that point in which they wanted him to work in the rear palace, so they made him a eunuch. That's what I think happened. And so Mao Mao just thinks, oh, well, yeah, he studied abroad, and then that's the point when the Empress made him a eunuch. Yes, I can see it being a punishment, but I don't think it's a punishment. I think it's literally they wanted him to work in there, so they did it. They forced him to go in there. And I think because of his knowledge, because it was applied there, because he probably did a lot of good things, that's probably why eventually, even though he was claimed to have been involved with this incident, he was just let go rather than executed. But either way, I think the interesting thing here is more, yes, getting that little more insight into the father, but also additionally, Jinshi seemingly picking up on this Loman, her father, adopted father, is very impressive, very skilled, and yes, at some point was apparently involved with this Empress. But yeah, other than that, just great little moments with Mao Mao being gorgeous, walking around the city with Jinshi was really a lot of fun. Going to get the chicken skewers. They technically had a little bit of insight into Jinshi there. They earlier had him, Mao Mao kind of point at the fact that he had a lot of calluses on his hands. She was questioning it, obviously, and not really getting the full picture. We've seen Jinshi doing sword training before, I believe. So it's obvious that Jinshi is at least training himself in swordsmanship. It would make sense in his position, again, if he's possibly not just a random dude, but possibly part of the royalty itself. It makes sense that he's training himself in the sword. And additionally, technically, with her pointing out later on, or at least him talking later on about his time at the camps, does indicate that, yes, he's probably been on the battlefield. He's probably been, on different campaigns and having to camp out and everything. So overall, a really fantastic episode. A lot of great insight looking into Loman, Mao Mao, this person that Lakan's possibly talking about, a little bit more into the industry of courtesans, which a lot of it kind of makes sense to me, unfortunately. This is a dark industry to get into, but it is what it is, unfortunately. And yes, Jinshi asking the stupid question that we all didn't want him to ask. So, preview for the next episode looks just as good. Cannot wait for it. It's going to be more and more stuff around, hopefully, Mao Mao and getting a bigger answer to this bigger question. I hope the next episode is literally Jinshi talking to Lakan again, and he goes, "Yeah, I asked somebody that's familiar," and he just turns and laughs like, "Oh my gosh, you actually did it, you idiot!" Because again, like I was kind of talking about in the previous episodes, it's like I literally think that Lakan is making Jinshi ask Mao Mao about this because Lakan knows the connection, and he's trying to cause a rift between Jinshi and Mao Mao. But we'll see. But anyhow, that's my thoughts on episode 17 of Apothecary Diaries. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. As always, if you did, make sure that like button down below, comment. Let me know what's thought of the episode. Are you in the camp of dumb Jinshi? Additionally, if you're new to the channel, make sure that subscribe button to get my content. I do news reviews, first impressions, top list. If it's anime, it's pretty much here. Additionally, if you want to support the channel more, I have Patreon link, tips, links, super things, membership button down below. Greatly appreciate what it does, and y'all take care.